Look at all the empty boxes.
I mean,
All right. We just want to know, inquiring minds want to know, if you had to choose between the triggerfish and the Mingo, who chose the triggerfish portion of the seminar over the Mingo? Show of hands, triggerfish. Mingo. All right.
50-50.
Which tastes better?
Ooh, they're different.
I eat triggerfish.
I was going to say, I like them both.
I like them both, but triggerfish and I have a love-hate relationship.
So, if you guys are friends with Tim, every once in a while he'll post this recipe, right, for both.
I've posted a lot of recipes.
A lot of Jamaican recipes.
Some that are Jamaican, some that are not.
Didn't you do like a cream corn or a sweet corn the other day?
Yeah, I actually did another top fish with a balsamic vinaigrette glaze. That was it's definitely the top 5 things I've ever made. Might be top 3.
Nice.
That was
part of. And if you have older fishing gear that you haven't used in years, in the corner of your man cave or your lady cave or your garage, anything that reels, rods, tackle, any type of stuff that you guys don't use anymore, and there's a prime example in my office of rods that I'm going to donate. If you don't know, the Destin High School and super technical, and we've embraced the class ever since its inception, or we even heard that it was going to happen, and we tried to introduce them to things other than just fishing, because not every kid understands, like, hey, I want to be a charter boat captain. Well, yes, I want to be a charter boat captain, and you understand that that's a difficult job. It's very hard, very tedious, but you also have to be a business owner. You have to be a marketer. You have to do all these things, right? You have to be an accountant. You have to budget and do all these. .38 light tackle, and there's a lot of us in the community that are. Last year, Half Hitch hosted a fundraiser, and they partnered up with the City of Destin, and the City of Destin guaranteed that every dollar that you raise, the county, Alex, with the county, Okaloosa County school system, right?
Yep.
Said every dollar that you raise, we will match. And the dollars were raised for the reef program.
No, 20 new reefs. Well, we made that goal last year by 11 o'clock in the morning, and they put out 20 new reefs this past year, and we're looking to do the same thing again this year.
The reefs were cool because whoever donated it had their name physically put on the reef that was sung.
And it's what's nice is last year it was a great idea, but it was the first year. And every dollar that's sold, there's not a portion of the profit. Every dollar that is raised that day goes towards this account. But here's the difference, right? You know, a lot of people want to sponsor the high school. They want to donate to the Destin High School because they have a lot of things that they're doing. They just finished a massive $3 million or $6 million building project. to accommodate all these kids that want to go to our school now. But every dollar that goes towards this event of fellow fishermen that you probably know in the community, you haven't seen in the community. A food truck was there, and they were not the food truck. You know what his goal is? His goal is to buy a fishing boat, 25, 26-foot, twin four-cylinder, horse-powered fishing boat that the kids can build up. They can redo the vinyl, which they've learned how to do in our vinyl and upholstery shop here. They can sand down the gel coat and bring the gel coat back. And every bit of that they're learning in the different departments here. So it's a project, but how cool would that be if we could raise enough money for them to go buy their own boat, and it's always a legal adult, a captain, will be on the boat, insured, taking these kids out. Hey, I want to go to class this afternoon. Let's go catch a couple of fish and come back. So it's just for a grant.
I mean, the car company, I think one guy wants to be a guy to coast guard. I mean, I'm a grown up. I'm playing my boat all day, every day anyway. So it's pretty cool for me too.
But it's a great cause, and like Todd said, if you want to donate like that, we're welcome to have. So we have, different charter boats that are donating charter trips, there'll be silent auctions on. So it may be somebody had an auto detailing shop or something, and you wanted to donate a detail, and people could do that in the silent auction. It doesn't necessarily have to be something special.
Somebody ended up with a pretty
everybody coming out tonight. We've known this many people coming. I guess we need to open more people.
Yeah, I'm just looking at all the empty bottles. I thought for sure when we were talking about this, I was like, oh, I'll grab some pizza later. I'll take one to eat or whatever. But yeah.
Right, who doesn't room, and I'm vice president of Happy. We were at the boat show this past weekend doing seminars at the boat show. And of all the ones here are filmed, so they're on Facebook and they're on things. Well, this one wasn't. Well, it was absolute pure pandemonium.
I'll get you back.
I love you too. But anyway, I may or may not have switched all the handles on Mark's reels. I'll talk about fishing, right? So Mingo and Trigger, honestly, on them, and the triggerfish, of course, do. But Mingos are open year round, and you know, I think most people, they talk about snapper. I mean, that's all they served. They had triggerfish sandwiches. That was it. I mean, I think they had hamburgers and stuff. But anyway, you know, the triggerfish, the Mingos, this one here happens to be one that we caught a couple years ago. I don't remember if this one was last year or year before last.
2 years.
2 years ago.
I actually just looked for this picture because I wanted it on. I posted it on my social media. It was what's frustrating.
Gut.
Shoes off on. Almost 30.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's huge. Oh. We'll talk about that later.
Maybe 100.
No, not very deep.
So that's another nice one that we'd caught. That day we actually had, all the ones we had that day were over 3 pounds. And of course, triggerfish. You know, I think we already kind of touched on this. You know, Mingos and triggerfish is table fare. Both are sweeter and tastier than red snapper.
I think it makes sense though when you look at what they're eating. So bad stuff bioaccumulates up. It's had the opportunity to accumulate some of that stuff. So you look at like a 15-year-old red snapper that's been eating who knows what, floating around in the Gulf for a while. It kind of makes sense that those Mingos have a cleaner meat. And you can tell by looking at it.
You know, and where to find Mingos and triggerfish, unlike snappers that are somewhat more rec-oriented, we catch most of the Mingos and triggerfish on natural bottom, hard bottom rocks and ledges. And you have to learn how to fish and not be fishing a structure to be productive with these. And they consistently get bigger when you get offshore. Are a million triggerfish, and they're all that big.
And if you drop a sabiki rig, you'll catch 6 of them at a time.
Yeah, you know, so you know the inshore waters are really kind of the nursery. You need to be pushing that state water boundary or further to start getting. The further you go, the better the grade will become.
Not all of us have the luxury. Like I have to stay in more shallow water. So for me, I'd probably drop this 125 down to 50, 60, and make do with what I can.
But there's plenty of places inside of state waters that are in that 110 to 125 range.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Mingos and triggers caught in state waters. You just have to catch more of them and throw quite a few back.
Maybe try catching them a little differently too. I think the bigger ones are a little bit smarter than the small ones.
As far as seasons, Mingo snappers year round. This year, triggerfish early, but the years. So somewhere, if you're going to catch the winning triggerfish in the rodeo, you need to have that done by the 15th.
Just in case.
Yep.
I have so much to say about this.
All right.
Go ahead. No,
come on. You got it. You got them calm.
So I went to college and my degree's in mechanical engineering. I'm a nerd on my boat. The way my boat's set up with my watch, my phone, and my laptop at home, the information running through my boat, and and you and I talked about one of my weird thoughts earlier today for about an hour. There's a lot going on. And having I call it my smart boat, is just having my boat set up a certain way, I think directly leads to catching more fish. If I know what I'm looking at, how to interpret it, and how to read it, it changes everything. And some of you guys were here for the Garmin seminar, and you saw a lot of that firsthand. Like, if you know what you're looking at, it's gonna make it a lot easier. And I can tell by looking at this picture, and as we go through some of these slides, I'll probably point out some of the things I'm talking about, but there's absolutely some things that could be done differently, but I'm sure we'll get into those.
Yeah, and I actually took some. This only has stuff that's kind of pertinent.
But it's still, in looking at it and knowing what you're looking for, and I agree with you. There's a lot of good stuff you could point out about catching fish in here too. Yeah. But there's still, if this was your boat and I got on, I would immediately start clicking around in there and make it a little bit.
And what you should notice from this is we're fishing really hard bottom here. There's good coral and live bottom marking on the bottom. Of course, we have our Mingos here, and most of these stripes up here at the top, those are actually the lines going down. You can actually read the lines.
I can go ahead and tell you that this picture I thought was my boat, but this is not on my boat. And somehow, if this engine's running, you've got some corrosion.
Anyone doesn't know favorite terms is the little fuzzies on the bottom.
You have the good fuzzy one coming up?
I think maybe.
And these
actually, I may not have.
These are the terms Tim actually uses on the boat too. And I promise at least one of you guys at some point over the next year will go, ooh, look at the fuzzies. Yeah. And then you're going to get mad at yourself.
But what this on top of the red is designating our hard bottom, but this little fuzz that's on the bottom, the yellow and green color, what that's telling me is that's living bottom. Corals and rocks and stuff, that's actually live, what we call live bottom. If the bottom was just solid red with no little things on top of it, it's not nearly as good of a spot because it's not living bottom, living corals.
And there's definitely, and I run Garmin's on my boat, there's some settings to change that'll help really identify what you're looking at on the bottom. And another example, for instance, is if I'm running across the bay, I can tell if it's sand or mud based on how deep the red is. And I hope that slides in here somewhere.
Yeah, I think I know the one you want. I'll just flip over and get that one.
And I think, even then that one that with the split screen, with the split zoom that you have in it, is important enough for, yeah, there it is.
So, learning to use your electronics. If you're not using your split zoom function, you need to. So what we're looking at here is a piece of bottom that's in 210 feet of water. And I want y'all to ignore this side of the screen as best you can. Most people would drive up on this piece of bottom and they would just keep on going to the next spot. And I can pull right in there behind you and catch fish. Now this particular one happens not to be a Mingo spot, but it's a good representation. All this here, on this side, we're only looking at the bottom 30 feet. And it's a whole lot different. You got from the and like I said, it's going to be in the next picture I'll show you, but it can be the same thing can happen with Mingos. They're up underneath the little edges and the rocks and the corals, and they're up underneath all that stuff. And there's enough here with the fuzzies that I see here, plus these few fish, that we're going to stop and fish. Well, the same exact spot, 10 minutes